Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Emma and this channel is all about sewing, mainly hand sewing, and it is so lovely to have you here joining me today. So how are you all? I really hope that you're well and that you've been having lots of opportunities for lovely stitching time. To be honest, I've been quite run down over the last few weeks. I've been feeling pretty dreadful, but I'm happy to say I'm over whatever that strange virus was that I had recently. I'm over it now and I'm feeling so much better. So before we get into today's very exciting video, which is all about your quilts, I just have a few things that I want to tell you about. So first of all, I just want to say welcome if you're a new subscriber. I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, so thank you for joining me here and for taking that chance on me and pressing the subscribe button to check out my videos. It really means so much to me. I put my heart and soul into this channel. I'm so passionate about sewing and I really hope that you enjoy the videos I make. And if you've been here before and maybe you've been here for a couple of years, then thank you for sticking by me. It really means so much. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to the people who are supporting this channel through Patreon and also through sending me super thanks on some of my videos. I honestly can't express how grateful I am to you, so thank you so much. And just before we get started on today's video, I just have one more thing to say. I realised that I haven't talked about my workshops at Festival of Quilts this year, so I'd like to tell you very briefly about those. So if you're visiting the Festival of Quilts this year, I'm going to be there on Saturday the 5th and Sunday the 6th of August, and I have two workshops that I'm teaching. The first workshop on the Saturday is Curved English Paper Piecing Made Easy, and that's focusing on hex petals and hex petal flowers. There are only a few spots left in that workshop, but if you'd like to join me, then I'll leave a link below where you can find all of the details. And I'm also doing a workshop on the Sunday as well, which is an introduction to English paper piecing but using hexiform. So I'm going to be doing a beginner's class really and going through all of the basics and talking about which shapes go together and things like that. So it's going to be a really fun class with lots of information, and there are plenty of spots left for that one. So I'll leave a link down below where you can find the details of the workshops at Festival of Quilts. You do have to purchase an entry ticket into the show, and then the workshop is a separate ticket. And I think when you go to the link, you'll need to search Emma Jones to find my workshops. I think that's the way it will show up. So if you are able to join me at Festival of Quilts this year, that would be absolutely brilliant and I would love to see you there. So now that is out of the way, we can get started on today's video, which is super exciting. Now, last year, if you didn't know, maybe if you're new here, last year I shared my Quilt As You Go hexagon quilt and I got a fantastic response to that, and so many of you said that you wanted to make one too, and I just had to make a video about that because it's so inspiring to see what people are making. So I made that video, I think it was in November, and it was wonderful, and I promised to make another one in spring, so here we are. So today we're in for a real treat because there have been some wonderful projects submitted and I'm really excited to share them with you. So a massive thank you to everybody who has taken the time to contribute to today's video. So let's get started. So I'm all set up here. I have my laptop ready and I'm going to be reading the responses from the laptop, so if I'm looking down then that's why. Okay, so first of all we have Megan from the USA, and Megan says, "This is my first project. I've made a couple of simple things like skirts but never hand sewn and never quilted. How exciting!" So she says about her project, "I'm using some scrap Christmas fabrics my mother got from a neighbour who used to own a fabric store. I made an ornament for my grandmother who lives in a home where she can't have large gifts. I embroidered a little message on the back, but it has a full name on, so she's not going to send that bit. That's absolutely fine. And let's take a look at the picture that Megan sent. Here it is. That is absolutely adorable, and what a lovely idea, Megan, to use the Quilt As You Go hexagons to make Christmas ornaments. Now I definitely want to do that as well. And how lovely that you made that for your grandmother, and it's personalised on the back, and I just love that. It's for a first attempt. You would never think that that was your first hand-sewn attempt or quilting attempt. It's absolutely beautiful, perfectly stitched. Thank you so much for sending that in, Megan. Okay, so next we have Barbara from the USA, and she says that she has been quilting for 35 years. She says she started the Quilt As You Go project after seeing my video. And she says, mine looks so beautiful, thank you so much. She had the sufficient supplies on hand, so she just jumped right in and started stitching. First hexagons made using crumb blocks that I had on hand, using my Singer featherweight. Oh wow, I love Singer featherweights. That's a dream of mine to have one of those one day. Second one with the hex den flowers sewn all by hand. The fabrics are mostly all Aunt Grace 1930s. And she says, thank you for all your videos, super fun and enjoyable sewing that I will continue with. Oh, I'm so glad that you're enjoying the project, Barbara. So let's have a look at her pictures. She sent 2 pictures in. Well, they are absolutely beautiful, Barbara. I love those. They're so bright and colourful and cheerful. I love 1930s fabrics. They really are. Oh, I just love that vintage vibe. They're so charming. And I love the ones that you've done using the crumb blocks. So what a great way to use up your scraps. Absolutely beautiful. And that must be the back of your blocks. And doesn't that just give another lovely effect? That is the beauty of this quilt, isn't it? That you really do get 2 quilts in one, and I absolutely love this. I would just smile every time that I would see that. Thank you so much for sending that in, Barbara. So next up we have Julie, and Julie is from the UK, and she says that she's been quilting and sewing on and off for 40 plus years, but she's been doing it consistently for the last 7 years. And she says, I started my quilt mid-March 23 after planning it in my head for the past year. I know what that's like, Julie. I do a lot of that, thinking and dreaming up things, and unfortunately it can take a while to get round to them. I had intended to start just after Christmas, but we decided to move home, so it got pushed back again. I'm calling my quilt my Retro Memories quilt, and I am using my Precious Liberty fabric for the backing hexagons and fabric from Rose Garden Patchwork, mostly by Atsuko Matsuyama, which I absolutely adore, and it really does remind me of my childhood for my central hexagons. I am hand quilting each one as I make it, and they are around 3 inches each once finished. I've only made about 30 so far, as I have several other projects that I'm working on too. I'm guessing that I will need around 200 to make it the king size I want it to be. Oh wow. And Julie has shared her Instagram name, so I will share that too, so you can follow along with her project. And let's take a look at her photos. I've had a look at these already, and I know that I just love this, and it's exactly right what she says about retro memories, and aren't they just absolutely charming? I just love the colours, I love the prints and those retro characters on them. I just absolutely love that. I think that when this quilt is done, it is going to be spectacular. Look at those cats holding little strawberry and a cake, and the little teapot on there. That is absolutely adorable. You just can't help but smile when you see prints like this. I just love it. It's really going to be wonderful, Julie. Thank you so much for sharing it. And she shared some more of the fabric packs. I've bought fabric from Rose Garden Patchwork before as well, and she has such a fabulous selection of Japanese fabric, so I really do recommend checking that out, and I'll leave a link to her below. Thank you so much for sharing yours with us, Julie. It's absolutely lovely. So next we've got Darla, and Darla says that Darla is from the USA, and she says that she's been sewing since around 1983 or 1984. She started making the hexies after seeing my first video in 2022. She says, I am using whimsical fabrics that I have. I most likely will make this a table topper. I've stopped making the hexies for now. They are not sewn together in the picture, just randomly laid out. Sometimes it's nice to just make the blocks, isn't it, and not join them as you go along. And then you can really think about the placement of them. So she shared a photo of them all stacked up there. I really love that colour palette. The really soft blues and the low volumes, and a little hint of pink in there. They look lovely. There they are, all laid out. Well, I really love that. It's got such a calm, serene feel to it. And when you look closely, you can see all the lovely prints and all the little, there's fairies and bunnies, and I think it looks like she's made a hexagon flower and put it on, and some embroidery as well, so that is absolutely lovely. And maybe there is an applique, I think a cat up there, I can't see quite clearly. So, but that is absolutely lovely, and what a special quilt that is going to be. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Darla. So next we have Mary, and I think Mary might have shared hers in the previous video as well. She's from the US, and she's been sewing for 50 years on and off and quilting for the last 6. And she says, I started my Quilt As You Go project right after your first video. I loved your video. Oh, thank you, Mary. I'm using all kinds of scrap fabrics. The embroidery I'm doing little pictures that mean something to my daughter. Flowers, dogs, cats, house, anything that will remind her of me. I'm making a full-size quilt for her bed. The hexies will cover the top, and there will be a border going down the side of the bed. I've not sewn any of the hexies together yet. It measures about 40 inches square now, and I need it to be 58 inches by 68 inches. So let's have a look where Mary is up to. Very exciting. It sounds quite big. Oh, wow. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful, Mary. And I really love all of those colours and all of the different fabrics, and I love how you've added the applique and embroidery. It really adds a special handmade touch to it, and I can see she's got some vintage embroidery there, some hexagons, really beautiful ideas. It's giving me some ideas for applique that I can add to mine. And I do remember yours from last time, because I think you shared the house last time. That's really beautiful. It's really coming along nicely, Mary, and it's going to be wonderful. Your daughter is going to love it. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. So next we have Pam, and Pam says, I only started machine quilting during COVID, but I have sewn for many years. I made my clothes, kids' clothes, and sewed for other people too, even a wedding gown and train. Oh wow, Pam, that's incredible. That has been many years ago. I've done different types of hand needlework since the 70s, so I love hand sewing as well as sewing on my machine. And about her Quilt As You Go project, she says, I started my Quilt As You Go project around the first week of April, so I've not sewn any of the pieces together yet, as I want to have a few more before doing that. I've used some antique linens, some of my cross-stitch, and one of my mother's cross-stitch pieces. She is 97, and when I showed her that I was using her Santa in my quilt, she was thrilled. She used to do lots of cross-stitch, but her eyesight does not allow her to do it anymore. Her Santa is the one in the middle of the picture. The other Santa is one of my pieces along with the other cross-stitch pieces. And she shared her Instagram name, so I'll pop that up on the screen, and let's have a look at her pictures. Now, I've had a look at these and they are really lovely. And look at that, isn't that just absolutely adorable? And isn't it such a great idea to use the cross stitch as well? It really adds another dimension to it, and the mix of the cross stitch pieces with the vintage antique linens and those retro prints, I just absolutely love that. It's so unique. There's another picture where we can see the other Santa there, and it's so lovely that you've included some of your mum's work in it, Pam. I'm not surprised she was thrilled. That really makes it extra special and extra personal. And I really love that Christmas fabric right at the top, which looks Victorian style. It's just so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Pam. It was a real treat to see your quilt. Okay, so next we have Marilyn, and she is from the US, and she has been quilting and sewing for plus 20 years. And for her Quilt As You Go project, she's been using Liberty quilting cotton, and she started this about 6 months ago. And Liberty quilting cotton is obviously thicker than Liberty Tanner Lawn, but it is of such a lovely quality. It's so soft and I can really recommend it. I'm going to be doing some projects soon with Liberty quilting cotton, and it's really lovely. And oh my goodness, Marilyn, your quilt is absolutely beautiful. I love the colours, the sort of red, white and blue, and those prints are just beautiful. And I really love how you've added the hexagon detail to some as well, because you've appliqued it onto some of them, and it really breaks up the quilt because there's a lot of print there, but those hexagons really break it up, and it's just so pleasing to the eye. It's absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for sharing that one with us, Marilyn. It's really lovely. It's coming along a treat. So our next one is from Lucy, and Lucy is from the US, and she says, I've been hand sewing since I started watching your channel. Oh, that's amazing, Lucy. And she says she does needlepoint. I love needlepoint as well. Cross stitch, she knits, crochets, and she makes primitive rugs. But I really enjoy the hand stitching most right now. I'm like that too. I like all sorts of different crafts, and we can really go through periods of time, can't we, where we're really into one thing and then we come back to something else. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? So she says, I started my quilt when you first came out with your video. My plan was to take old garments of my relatives and use them in the quilt. That idea did not last very long, it just didn't work. I then started using scraps for front and back, but the colours just didn't go well. I started my quilt a third time and I'm happy. It's a little bumpy, but I don't care. I'm using the same fabric on all of my hexagons and I like it. It is so calming and satisfying after a long day to add 1 or 2 more hexagons to the pile. It was such a great idea you shared with us all. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Lucy. And thank you for sharing that it didn't go right for you the first and second time as well. It can be quite easy to think that these things don't happen because people don't often share the difficulties, and it happens to all of us where we make something and it just doesn't feel right. So well done for persevering with it as well, and wow, it looks absolutely beautiful. And you're right, it is so calming and relaxing to do that, and a great way to unwind after a busy day at work. I really love all of the prints that you've chosen there. It's just something so vibrant and happy about it. It's a really happy quilt. It looks fantastic. And I just love that. I love the fabric that you've got going on in the background surrounding the hexagons. It looks like it's a gradient or an ombre, that sort of thing. I love your sewing basket as well. That's really beautiful. That is such a lovely project, Lucy. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. So next we have Leslie, and Leslie is in the UK, and she says she's been sewing and quilting for 1 year. I didn't know that, Leslie. I thought you'd been doing it for much longer than that. And I've seen Leslie's quilt because I follow Leslie on Instagram, and I've been watching this quilt grow, and it's just such a wonderful project. You're going to love it. She says, I started my quilt around 4 months ago and I've used a variety of fabrics, but predominantly Liberty and Tilda. Just use fabrics that I like, so no special meaning or memories. I've always wanted to make a hexagon quilt, and the Quilt As You Go project was ideal as I live in a small cottage and not much space to handle large pieces of fabric to back a quilt. And she shared her Instagram as well, and I'll share that with you, and some photos of her fantastic quilt, which has just grown and grown, and it's been so exciting to see how big this has grown. It's huge, and oh my goodness, Leslie, look at that. Is that hanging over a door there? That is just absolutely spectacular, and I love those colours. I love the sort of deep pinky reds. They really contrast well with the paler pinks, and you've got some blues and greens in there. The prints are all absolutely stunning. What an heirloom piece. That is a treasure, and I want that on my bed. It's so nice. And there's a picture of the back, and the back is wonderful too. I love how I've used like the bigger prints on the back, the bigger floral prints. They work so well for backing hexagons, don't they? And you really do get two quilts in one. It's so wonderful. I just think Leslie's going to keep going with this until it's done, and I think she's going to have it done this year, I'm sure. Look at the size of it in this picture. You really get an idea of how much she's done there. How many hexagons have you done, Leslie? If you know, leave a message in the comments. How many in total have you done? It's wonderful. Look at that. And it looks so snuggly as well. Every time I see these quilts, it just makes me want to get mine back out. I'm hoping I can do that this afternoon because I'm feeling really inspired to work on mine. And there's the final picture that she's shared in really good light there, so we can really see the prints. It's so charming. I just love it. Thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing that with us. Okay, so next we have Rachel, and Rachel is in the UK and she shared her Instagram as well, so I'll share that with you on the screen. And she says she's been sewing and quilting since she was a child. She mostly does EPP and quilting, although she used to do cross-stitch and embroidery. And she said she started her project a couple of weeks ago. She's using Liberty offcuts from eBay for the back hexagons and large print offcuts for the centres. Each finished block is a 2.5-inch hexagon. The fabric is pretty patterns that she's been hoarding that just didn't work for her other EPP projects. And she hasn't decided if she wants to hand quilt the hexagons yet and how it will look, but she's hoping to get it finished so she can enjoy snuggling under it in the autumn. So let's have a look at Rachel's picture. Oh wow, I really love this, Rachel. I love the bold prints that you've chosen for the centres, the big large scale florals. It works really well, and there's such a nice contrast between those prints and the prints on the back. I love the bold colours. That's going to be so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Rachel. Okay, so next we've got Ryan from the US, who has been cross-stitching for 7 years and quilting for 4 years. And Ryan says, I started my project in 2021 and finished in 2022 and decided to go for the scrappy look. I do have 3 main colours I used, blue, pink and purple, all hand stitched. This was my second Quilt to Go project and it uses Daisy and Grace templates from Missouri Star Quilt Company. This will be the last quilt I finish during apartment life, as my husband and I are about to move into our new home soon. How exciting! Good luck with the move. And let's have a look at Ryan's picture. Oh my word, that is absolutely stunning. And it incorporates diamonds, jewels and hexagons, and wow, that is really striking. Such a beautiful design, and it's incredible that it's all quilt as you go as well. I absolutely love it. What a beautiful, beautiful project. The ones at the bottom, they look like flowers because the green diamonds just remind me of leaves, and then the pink one is like a flower. It's so lovely. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ryan. It's completely different to anything that I've seen before, so really lovely. Thank you. So next we've got Kirsten, and she is from Germany and has been sewing and quilting since 2010. And says, I started in November last year after I discovered your Instagram. Finally, I used my long treasured Pemberley fabrics to make an Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy quilt. Oh, how exciting. I'm a massive Jane Austen fan, particularly of Pride and Prejudice, so I can't wait to see this. I haven't seen this one. Lots of the hexagons in the pictures are fixed with safety pins, but I'm working on it in small portions. But that's a really good idea, isn't it? To lay them all up and get them ready, and then you can stitch them when you're ready to do the sewing part. So let's have a look. I'm very excited to see the Pemberley fabrics. Oh my goodness, you've done so many, and wow, it's so beautiful. I love the muted tones of this one. It's just absolutely beautiful. That would really go well with the decor in my house. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And there's a picture of the back as well, and it's really lovely how you've done the quilting. I can see hearts and hexagons and swirls and all sorts of different designs. That's a really lovely idea, and it shows up really nicely on the back as well. I was just going around the edge of mine, but I really like that idea of doing something really different in the middle. It fits so well. It's really in keeping with your fabrics. And there's a close-up picture again where you can see the quilting, how each one is different, and I love those fabrics. I've never seen that range of fabric before, but the bonnets and the dress with the umbrella or the parasol, that's absolutely beautiful. Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's really delightful. So I have received a couple via email, but before I just show you those, I just wanted to tell you about somebody who shared their project last year in the November video, Dawn. I just noticed that on her YouTube channel she's put up another video about the Quilt As You Go hexagons, where she shows you how to make a hexagon from a circle. And she very kindly gave my channel a shout out as well, so I definitely want to give her a shout out. So I'll put the name of her channel on the bottom of the screen now, and I would definitely recommend to go and watch that video. I'll link her video below. Definitely watch that, because if you want to make your own hexagons, this is a great way of doing it. Really affordable way, you don't need any fancy tools. So check that out, and check out her channel as well, because she makes some absolutely beautiful things. And you'll see in the video that I've linked that she's making some underwater themed Quilt As You Go hexagons, and they're really stunning, so I highly recommend checking that out. So the next one that I want to share from you I received via email from a lovely lady named Joy, and this is a really special project because she received all of these blocks from someone at a quilt group that she went to in Florida, and she said that the blocks were handmade by British women, and they were all given to a lady called Polly, and she was a lovely lady who never wasted a scrap of fabric. And Polly asked Joy if she wanted the blocks, so Joy accepted the blocks and had to do some work on them to get them to fit together, and some of them were coming undone and not square, so she worked on them and she machine pieced some sashing to them. And she said that the blocks each have the name of the maker and the year of the making of the blocks on them, which is really nice. It's really important to date your work, isn't it? So it's like a little piece of history. And she said that she did have a letter to the Quilters Guild published. And the very week that she saw the letter was the same week that Polly sadly passed away, so she didn't get a chance to see her name in the magazine. She said that she's not done a perfect job on the quilt, but I would disagree. I think it looks absolutely fabulous. She hand quilted it, and she used the lap quilting method with no frame, which is my favourite way of doing it. And she said the needle went through this fabric so smoothly, and all of her first quilts were hand pieced and hand quilted. And she says the binding is ready to put on as soon as the border is quilted. Then I will wash it and hopefully it will stay in one piece. The blocks have been floating around, possibly in a box or a garage. So also she doesn't want the colours to run, and she doesn't know how much shrinkage there'll be. And she's asked me a question. The final stage will be finding an owner who will love the quilt. Originally my idea was to find someone who would really appreciate it and needed the love of a quilt wrapped around them. But watching the TV ads about sarcoma, I'm wondering whether it would sell to raise some money for sarcoma research. I actually don't know anything about that, but that's a really lovely idea, to sell the quilt to raise some money for a charity. And it's a super special quilt, and I'm sure however you manage to rehome it, it will be really well appreciated. It really is a piece of history, so thank you so much, Joy, for sending that in and sharing that story with us. And the final one that I want to share is from Janice, and Janice has sent these beautiful pictures to me via email of her quilt that she's working on at the moment. And if you look closely, you can see that she's done some embroidery as well, and the theme of the fabrics and the embroidery are all sewing themed, and I just love that. she's done a sewing machine there, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And when I saw this, it really, really made me smile. It's a really beautiful project, Janice, and what a joy that is to work on it. I just love it. I love anything that's sewing themed, and yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you so much for sending that to me, Janice. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing everybody's quilts just as much as I did. They are spectacular, aren't they? And what a lovely community of stitchers we have here. A massive thank you to everyone who has joined in and sent their work for us all to see. It's really been a pleasure, and I will see you soon. I'm going to take a short break in May just to catch up on some things because I've been unwell, as I mentioned at the beginning, and it's just set me on the back foot. So there will be, rather than just a week and then another video, there's probably going to be about a 3-week gap before my next video. So I'll see you at the end of May. I may post some shorts in that time because I really do need to get back in the swing of posting to social media. I've been a bit quiet on Instagram in the last few months. So follow me on Instagram if you want to see what I'm getting up to in the meantime. But until then, until the end of May, I wish you a wonderful few weeks. I hope the weather is nice where you are. I hope you get plenty of stitching time in. And I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye bye.